Okay, hello and welcome to my Happy Cells and Souls YouTube channel. I'm Julie Powers and I am a licensed Zumba instructor and a business partner with the Juice Plus company. My mission is to help people know that life is better when they're dancing through it, and also to know that I can inspire healthy living by helping people expand their joy. And, my mission has sort of been expanded as well to simply creating better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. And I believe that our time here on earth is supposed to be happy and joyful. And I want people to live into that. First of all, through having healthier, happier bodies. So, we only get one body while we're living here on earth, and we have to take care of it so that we can live our best life. And two, that I want people to remember that they can embrace their inner being and fill themselves up with joy and happiness so they can shine more light on other people. And so that brings us to this video series that I'm doing on this channel, because I've had the honor and privilege to get to know some of the most remarkable people throughout my life. And each one has something very different to share and to offer the world. And just as you do as you're watching this, but I want to learn from all kinds of people. And I believe that if we're not learning and growing, then we're basically stagnant and dying, and that's no fun. And everyone has value, everyone has purpose. And even when somebody has a different background or opinion or experience or perspective or different beliefs, they still have value, they still have purpose, and I want to learn from them. And so I'm hoping that today that you and I can learn together from my friend Erma Cooke. And Erma is in North Carolina, and she started out as a registered nurse for 10 years, and then she became a neonatal nurse practitioner, and she's been doing that for 25 years. And she works in a small newborn nursery in a local hospital full-time, but part-time she still works in the NICU in a larger hospital in a metropolitan area. And when I met Erma, I just found out the most fascinating gift that she has. And she is known throughout the places where she works as the baby whisperer. And you're going to find out why that is. But I would like for you, Erma, to just kind of tell us, first of all, when did you first realize that you had any kind of a special gift, this intuition that was far and above, greater than what normal people walking around here on earth have? When did you first learn about this in your own life?
So my first encounter with this intuitive self was when I was about 12 or 13 years old. My mother had been diagnosed with cancer in her throat and she couldn't talk. And I realized that we could have communications without speaking to each other. And so I was the only one in my household that had that connection with her. So I knew I was very different, but I didn't really have a name for it because we lived in the country. And I really wasn't exposed to any kind of intuitives or any of the terminology that I'm so used to today. I just knew I could talk to mom and we didn't have to be in the same room.
And that's a completely amazing gift, to be able to communicate with someone who has an illness that is keeping them from voicing what they want to say. And so then after she passed, she died when you were 14, right?
Yes.
And so you actually went on to have some communication with her after she passed as well.
I did. She showed up in my bedroom one day when I was a teenager. I was 17 and essentially living with older siblings, and I was really depressed. And she showed up and just filled the room with love and peace and comfort. And so I always knew that she was there, and has walked with me throughout my entire life.
That's a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yeah.
So I would like to kind of go back to the baby whisperer moniker that you have, because when I first learned about your gift, you were explaining how you can walk into a nursery like at the NICU where there are multiple babies that have had significant health challenges since they were born, and they were immediately placed into the NICU. And you could sense this knowing of which babies needed immediate attention and what needed to be taken care of. Can you kind of explain how that is? Like when you walk into a room, what does that feel like, sound like, look like in your experience?
Yeah. So one of my first experiences with that as a young nurse practitioner, I walked into what we call the step down nursery. It's the nursery where the kids aren't really sick, but they're feeding and growing. And I just knew there was something wrong with this baby, and I couldn't put words to it, and I couldn't explain myself. And the neonatologist that was working with me was like, I hear you, but I don't see anything wrong with this kid. Don't worry about him. And I left that afternoon. The next morning I went back to work, and the baby was extremely ill. And the neonatologist walked up behind me and put his hand on my shoulder and said, the next time you tell me a baby's got something wrong with him and I don't listen, please kick me. And I just kind of chuckled, because I was like, I don't think I'll have to. But it was a knowing, and I really couldn't even put words to it. I just knew that baby was like, there's something going on here. And then over the years, it's just developed into almost like a second sense. That there was one day I walked into the NICU, and your normal everyday, let's go to work. I got 10 babies I need to see today. And I walk in the door and I was overwhelmed with, I need you now. And there's a room full of babies and I'm like, okay, who needs me now? Who are you? And I was directed to the baby's bed, and I could just see the energy swarming around his bed, and it was just chaotic energy. And I went over to the bedside, and he was definitely very sick. He ended up having to be transported to another hospital to have some surgery. And so it was just like, I knew when I walked in the door, okay, this is not good. It was like he was screaming at me to come to the bedside.
Wow. I mean, that's really amazing. So my daughter was in the PICU at a children's hospital in St. Louis many times throughout her life. And she passed when she was 8.5 years old. And what a sense of, comfort it would have been if I had known that one of the nurses on staff could communicate with her in that way of knowing that something really needed to be taken care of immediately, instead of waiting for these horrible things to show up. Because sometimes just that a few hours or even a few minutes advance notice can mean the difference between fixing it easily or fixing it with a lot more challenges, or not fixing it at all. And so that's pretty great. I know that you've said that you can also talk to people, communicate with them as adults. They don't have to be babies. And I was teasing you. I said it's like in The Sixth Sense, where the little boy says, I see dead people. So you hear living people who aren't actually talking. And so for a lot of people, that'd be like, oh my gosh, what if Erma walks into a room? Does she know what I'm thinking without me knowing it? And you were explaining how that works. So can you kind of talk about that gift that you have as well?
Yeah, it doesn't work that I know what everybody's thinking. Usually I have a connection to that person in some way, and I have permission from them to have that connection. So like my best friend from college and it got to be a joke. It still is a joke. We're still friends. And you go to pick up the phone to call them and the phone rings, and it's like, oh, hey, Gene, you don't even have to ask who's on the phone. You know who it is. And the same thing. I mean, people that I have heart connections with, I know what's going on with them. One of my lifelong best friends, son and daughter were in a really bad situation. And it was amazing to me because I was walking around going, something is wrong in my world. Something is wrong in my world. And I couldn't figure out where the connection was. And then when she called me, it was like, oh, that's the connection. But, sometimes it's just that intense sending out energy to wherever this is that that this is going on, because at that point I didn't know where it was, but I was certainly sending positive energy and life and love to wherever in the universe this connection was. That
Right.
was
Because
so
you didn't know that was
right.
happening. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know that a lot of people that are twins or triplets or, very close family ties, they have that same kind of ability to communicate with each other without ever having a conversation. But this goes so much farther than that in, being able to communicate with, these babies and these other people that you have connection with. I'm wondering if you just met someone and you had a conversation about this gift that you have, and they said, "Oh, I'm perfectly fine with you being able to know what I'm saying." Would you be able to have some kind of a connection with them and communicate with them at that point? Or would there need to be a deeper connection or a medical necessity? Or, how does that work?
I think for me, it would probably have to be a little deeper connection than just somebody coming up and saying that. Though I have had visions for strangers that it was just like somebody I met, and it was like, "Oh, I have a vision to share with you. Here you go." And that was a little unnerving to,
Right.
hear this woman speaking and know, okay, I need to tell her what I just saw for her in her life. And it was the fun thing about that was it was right on. It was when I shared with her what I saw, she was like, "That's amazing." And then about a year and a half or 2 years later, she actually posted a picture on her website that when I saw the picture, I just kind of stopped and went,
That's
"That's
what I
it.
saw.
That's what I saw."
Wow.
Yeah. And so, it was amazing. You sometimes get those backdoor confirmations that, you're not off your rocker when you're seeing this or doing this, when you do it with a stranger, when you're shown something as a gift for a stranger,
Right.
to do that. So those kind of, the vision kind come for strangers. The knowings come from more people that I'm connected with. The knowings come in a medical situation way more easily, because I'm in a place where I probably listen a lot closer when I'm in the nursery and when I'm at work.
So I know that you talked about some of the ladies, or I don't remember who it was, but there was a group of women who said, "How do you always get these babies to calm down, the ones that are crying so much?" And that's kind of where the baby whisperer came from, because you were able to swaddle them with your communication, basically your all-knowing love and energy, that you were able to say to these babies, "It's okay, you can stop crying now." Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah. So what happened was I worked in an intensive care nursery where there were a lot of babies that were exposed to Suboxone and Subutex and Methadone, which are treatments for opioid addiction. And it's such a rampant thing in our world right now. And it's really, for almost 4 years, I worked on a team to try to develop protocols for these babies to help them through their withdrawing from that whatever chemical the mom was taking. And those babies, part of their withdrawal is they're just irritable. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in the NICU, the nurses are so busy and they're trying to calm a baby down, but they've got 6 other things running in their head. And so I would walk by and they'd go, "Can you do something with that child?" And as long as I was grounded and centered, I could pick the baby up. And to me, it felt like taking a blanket of love and just wrapping it around them and holding them in tight and just breathing, using my breath to help them calm down, because babies sync to the breath, the heart rate, the oxygen levels of the person holding them. So I knew that I could use my calming energy to calm them, and they'd go to sleep. And then the nurses would kind of look at me and go, "I hate you, but not really," because they'd been trying and they couldn't do it. And I could walk in and go, "Okay," and 10 minutes later, the kid's asleep and they stay asleep, So that part is really, it's a gift to be able to be present and help a baby to just settle back in when they're so out of control with the withdrawal problem.
Well, and probably the fact that you are so grounded and you know how to manage your breath. And for those of us out here on the other side of the world of that kind of control, so many of us are running around in circles. We're going too many miles, too many fast things happening, chaos, and we don't take the time to just stop and breathe and pay attention to our breathing. I'm learning. I'm learning how to do that, and it's definitely a an educational experience when you kind of step into this and you're like, I just need to learn how to be. I just need to learn how to
Mhm.
be, and I think that you have mastered that in how to breathe and stay grounded and stay in control of your own, I don't know, beingness, for lack of a better word.
Energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, you are very at home in your energy. And, people, I think sometimes people get a little freaked out by the word energy and that people can feel these different things in their energy fields. But my gosh, I mean, everybody knows when you walk into a room and everybody's really angry about something. If you walk into a meeting and it's really tense, you know it when you walk in the door. You can feel the energy. When you walk into some place that's full of happy people, you feel that from the moment you walk in. So that energy, well, for some people, it has to be that pronounced.
Yeah.
um, there are others that, like you, who can feel the tiniest little ripple in that energy vibration, and I find that fascinating and remarkable. And I have met so many really interesting people with amazing gifts, in in a very short period of time, and I'm hoping to be able to talk to each of them to share their gifts out there so people know that this is real. This is not just made up stuff. It's real. And you're out there helping the world and impacting these babies' lives and their families' lives. And I just want to tell you how much we appreciate that. And we're we're out here being thankful for people like you who can bring joy and happiness and, I don't know, that sense of comfort and, anyway, to the families and to the babies. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
No, I think we're good. But thank you for having me on today. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording.